The polished marble floor shone like glass under the soft golden light of the chandelier, casting reflections of the expensive shoes worn by affluent guests moving through the opulent hotel entrance hall. The space buzzed with conversation and laughter as gentlemen dressed in custom-fitted suits and ladies adorned in refined gowns made their way to the front desk. Amidst this world of luxury and splendor, two individuals stood out as starkly misplaced. An elderly gentleman with weathered, sun-beaten skin wore a threadbare hat and gripped a worn leather travel bag in his weathered hand. Next to him was a fragile woman draped in a faded head covering, her thin jacket offering little protection from the cold morning air, her expression marked by exhaustion from years of struggle. They remained standing with visible hesitation, appearing as though they had no rightful claim to the space they occupied. Still, there was something in the elderly man's straight-backed bearing that revealed a sense of honor that neither time nor financial hardship had managed to destroy. Even before they had the opportunity to speak, the hotel manager, a tall figure with smoothly combed hair and dressed in a crisp charcoal suit, leaned across the counter with a sneer on his face. His words rang out through the entrance hall, deliberately loud and meant to humiliate them for all nearby to witness. Purchase the budget accommodation and depart immediately. Individuals such as yourselves have no place in this establishment. The echo of his cruel amusement, accompanied by snickering from the desk staff standing behind him, sliced through the atmosphere like a vicious blade. The woman ducked her head in response, pulling her handbag tighter to her body, her frame shaking with humiliation. However, the elderly gentleman remained unmoved. His steady, resolute stare fixed itself upon the manager. For a brief instant, those observing the confrontation fell quiet. My friends, before we continue further with this narrative, I want to stop here and pose a question to you. If you hold faith and compassion, in offering others another opportunity, and in defending what is just, then please consider taking a moment to show your appreciation for this video, subscribe to our channel, Untold Stories 0.4, and pass this narrative along to someone who could use encouragement today. Your engagement enables us to continue delivering these meaningful tales of human kindness. The elderly farmer, known as Elias, had spent his life engaged in grueling physical work on the land. Day after day, from dawn until dusk, his calloused hands broke ground, sowed grain, and gathered produce that sustained communities throughout the region. But here in the urban environment, his mended clothing and scuffed footwear rendered him either overlooked or, even more painfully, an object of contempt. His spouse, Ruth, had remained faithfully at his side through the decades, nurturing their offspring, weathering hardships, and preparing simple meals from their meager resources. At this point in their lives, having sold off what little remained of their humble farmland, they had traveled to the city hotel not for indulgence but out of pure necessity, awaiting a crucial medical consultation that could not be postponed. They required lodging for a single evening, nothing beyond that. Yet to the hotel employees, their very existence seemed absurd, as though financial struggle had somehow forfeited their entitlement to respectful treatment. The degradation cut painfully deep. Additional patrons turned their attention toward the scene, some with expressions of scorn, others with looks of sympathy. Ruth's vision blurred with gathering tears. Nevertheless, Elias softly rested his palm upon hers, offering her stability. He raised no voice in anger. He made no desperate pleas. Rather, speaking with a tone that carried the profound assurance earned through decades of silent perseverance, he stated, "Young man, I have not come to this place to request what I lack the means to purchase. I have come to find rest after dedicating over 50 years of my existence to nourishing individuals such as yourself. This bag you ridicule once contained my implements, the very implements that cultivated the soil so that the young ones in this metropolis would never suffer from hunger." His statement, delivered with measured deliberation, contained no rage, yet it resonated with an authenticity that silenced the mockery surrounding him. The entrance hall grew still. Ongoing discussions ceased, and the clicking sound of footsteps faded into nothing. For the first time since the encounter began, the condescending expression vanished from the manager's features, giving way to a trace of doubt. Elias remained planted where he stood, his wife positioned at his side, her eyes now raised, emboldened by the conviction in his voice. He went on, "My garments may show their age, but every crease in this shirt was gained through honorable labor. Every mark upon my palms tells a tale of endurance. And if purchasing the budget accommodation is your sole perception of my worth, then keep this in mind. Inexpensive does not equate to having no value. I have experienced a life more abundant than these ornate walls could ever hold." A profound stillness descended upon the lobby. A woman dressed in a navy jacket standing at the desk pressed her teeth into her lower lip, her expression of amusement dissolving into visible unease. A patron standing in queue nearby moved uncomfortably, suddenly conscious of the inappropriate laughter they had participated in mere moments before. The gravity of Elias's declaration settled throughout the marble chamber, affecting every person present. Ruth, maintaining her firm hold on her husband's forearm, murmured quietly, "Elias, perhaps we ought to simply leave this place." But he responded with a slight motion of his head in refusal. His gaze remained locked on the manager without wavering. "No, Ruth. Those like us have been dismissed and ignored far too often. This day, our voices will be acknowledged." The manager attempted to clear the tension from his throat, his previous superiority beginning to crumble. "Well, established policies must be followed," he said with uncertainty, though his delivery now lacked its earlier self-assurance. Elias unlatched his travel bag and retrieved an aged leather-covered record book. He placed it upon the counter with unexpected emphasis, the impact reverberating throughout the gleaming marble space. The pages contained documentation and records spanning decades of agricultural goods delivered to commercial vendors, dining establishments, and remarkably, even to the very kitchen of this hotel. "Throughout many years, my agricultural land provided the nourishment that graced your elaborate feasts. The produce, the harvested grains, the garden vegetables, you presented them to your privileged clientele beneath fixtures of crystal such as these. And at this moment you show contempt toward the very hands that provided your sustenance." The understanding settled upon them like a heavy stone descending through clear water. The staff members cast looks toward one another, remorse becoming visible across their expressions. Guests throughout the lobby averted their gazes downward, some offering whispered expressions of regret beneath their breath. One mature woman seated in the vicinity began to clap her hands together gently. Then a gentleman joined her gesture, and before long the lobby resonated with the sound of dispersed applause. Tentative initially, but building in intensity, the manager's complexion deepened to crimson, stemming not from fury, but from humiliation he could no longer conceal. Ruth tightened her grip on Elias's hand, her eyes now shimmering, not from degradation this time, but from deep admiration. The same gentleman who had curved his spine over fields of earth now stood with full stature, demonstrating to everyone present that human worth cannot be quantified by material possessions. The wave of applause intensified, flooding the hall until it completely overwhelmed the empty ridicule that had previously pierced through them. With lips that trembled visibly, the manager at last spoke hesitantly, "Sir, I offer my sincere apology. Please accept the premium suite. There will be no cost." His statement was nearly lost beneath the surge of endorsement from those witnessing the scene. But Elias merely moved his head from side to side in refusal. "We have not traveled here seeking acts of generosity. We request only what falls within our financial means, no more, no less." His rejection of the offer penetrated more profoundly than any expression of anger possibly could. He had not merely stopped the derision, but had transformed the situation into an instruction in modesty for everyone who bore witness to the exchange. As the elderly pair was at last provided with their room access keys, Ruth rested against her husband's supporting arm, her spirit feeling more unburdened than it had felt in many years. The world around them had attempted to strip away their fundamental value, but Elias had demonstrated that genuine prosperity was not calculated in currency or formal attire, but rather in the capacity to maintain one's bearing when others attempt to diminish you. The entrance hall, previously resonating with cruel amusement, now remained in astonished quiet and respectful recognition as the farmer and his life partner proceeded toward the elevator doors, their sense of self-worth completely preserved. If this narrative has moved your spirit, my friends, please remember to show your appreciation for this video, pass it along to someone who requires encouragement, and subscribe to Untold Stories 0.4. Each interaction assists us in broadcasting additional narratives of bravery, affection, and human decency throughout the world. And before we conclude, I wish to present you with something meaningful to consider. What course of action would you have taken if you had been present in that hotel entrance hall observing this encounter unfold? Please express your reflections in the comments section. We would be delighted to learn your perspective. Because often the most financially struggling hands possess the most generous spirits, and occasionally a single spoken response can bring silence to an entire gathering.